Hey guys, welcome back to Adlib Talk, and this is my review for the Book of Boba Fett. Well, let's just say that this was a season with its ups and downs, but before we get into the nitty-gritty of this review, don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, and please do consider subscribing, as those are the two main ways you can help support my channel. Cheers, and let's get right into that review.
I am not a bounty hunter. I've heard otherwise.
Okay, so this review is going to have quite a few spoilers for pretty much the whole season, so be warned. Unfortunately, it would be pretty much impossible to have a review of a series like this without touching onto different plot points that take place throughout the season. So, the Book of Boba Fett was created by Jon Favreau and takes place after the events of The Return of the Jedi. It is also a continuation, obviously, of what happened in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, a fantastic series that I personally really enjoyed. This series focuses on bounty hunter Boba Fett, naturally, and his attempts with Fennec Shand to take over the territory that once belonged to Jabba the Hutt. Now, as I mentioned before, this season was really inconsistent. Honestly, it was a narrative mess for the most part. The story was very disorganized and depended a lot on flashbacks for information about what happened to Boba Fett. Then, at around episode 5, the series turns into The Mandalorian Season 2.5. And to be honest, that's when the quality of this series really rises, because we get the characters we truly care about. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let's start from the beginning. So we start off instantly by seeing how Boba Fett survived from the Sarlacc pit, captured by the Tusken Raiders, and eventually starts to become part of their tribe by earning their respect. Most of the time in episode 1 is clearly spent on flashbacks. On the other hand, in the present day, we see Fett and Shand taking control of Jabba's criminal empire on Tatooine and being attacked as well. One of the weaker action set pieces of the season. I think the attack in episode 1 was a bit of a flop. Episode 2 continues to focus on flashbacks, and this was actually one of my personal favorite episodes due to the excellently shot train heist scene. I really personally did enjoy my time with the Tusken Raiders. I think the series did a good job in making us care for them and appreciate their culture and way of life. On the other hand, I could not care one bit for what was happening in the present day, especially because we were barely spending any time with the newly introduced characters like the Gamorreans or Chrysanthemum, for example. Episodes 3 and 4 are pretty much when the show almost completely lost me, and I was honestly considering stopping watching it. The Mod Gang felt like a trip to London in the late 1970s. I mean, honestly, they look so out of place on a desert planet like Tatooine. But that's not the worst of it. The story just grinds to a halt. Episodes 3 and 4 have some very serious pacing issues. These pacing issues are made worse due to the flashbacks. Most of episode 4 was a waste of time, as it pretty much shows stuff that we knew had already taken place. Thankfully, I didn't stop there, as the series completely changes in episode 5, with it pretty much becoming The Mandalorian Season 2.5, as we see Mando killing bounties and using the Darksaber. But I liked how Mando was struggling to use the Darksaber. That element of the series was very good. Episode 5 was excellent, with a great flight scene, and so was episode 6, when we get to see Grogu training with Luke and Mando working with Fett to bolster their forces. To be fair, I also thought episode 7 was a decent way to end the season. I thought it was very rushed, but there were some good action set pieces here and quite a few epic moments. So the issues with this series are clear. This series could have done with a much more organized narrative, and I believe that putting the story in chronological order would have helped a lot. Another issue is that the series does a really good job of making us care for the Tusken Raiders storyline, but then kills them, right? Which, okay, I can accept that is a plot development and an emotional moment for Boba Fett. But then it does a very horrible job in making us care for Boba Fett's new allies, like the mods. Clearly, the series might have benefited with some more screen time, as I believe 7 episodes were far too short for a storyline like this, especially considering that some episodes were not longer than 40 minutes. Another issue is that as great as it was to see Din Djarin in Episode 5 literally interrupts the narrative of Boba Fett's story right when it seemed to get going. Let's put it this way. So episodes 1 to 4 were filled with flashbacks. Some episodes are pretty much almost completely flashbacks. And yes, that was important to build up Boba Fett's character and then to start the conflict with the Pikes. It's episode 4, and we've basically completed the flashbacks because the flashbacks end at episode 4. And once we've caught up with the whole thing, we get episode 5, which was a great episode, mind you. It was, I think, personally my favorite episode. But episode 5 completely interrupts the narrative we had going with Boba Fett and the conflict which was starting with the Pikes. The cynical person in me feels that this decision taken by Jon Favreau and probably by the suits who ordered him to do this is that they felt that with Grogu leaving Din Djarin, Disney were losing a big cash cow. And so they pretty much dedicated almost 2 whole episodes of a series which was not The Mandalorian to bring Grogu back with Mando. As awesome as that felt watching in the final episode, which means that season 2 of The Mandalorian, especially with that incredible final episode moment involving Luke Skywalker, was completely pointless, as Grogu's training, lasted for how long? Weeks, maybe? Anyways, enough complaining about the series. I feel like the Book of Boba Fett had a lot of strong elements to it. The Tusken Raider storyline, I will repeat, was a fascinating one to watch, and seeing Fett gain their respect and eventually becoming a part of the tribe was great to see. The destruction of the Tusken tribe was a strong emotional moment in this series, as was seeing Fett getting his revenge. Or did he? It is later revealed that it was the Pike Syndicate who ordered the slaughter of the Tusken Raiders, and not the Pike gang that Fett had killed at the end of episode 4. But eventually, by the end of episode 7, it is Fennec Shand who kills the leader of the Pike Syndicate, not Boba Fett. So again, even whilst I'm attempting to praise the series, still ending up complaining about plot elements that do not fit well together and feel so inconsistently written. There is a big writing problem here, as is clear to see. Now, the series does have some great characters, though. I feel like Fennec Shand has been a great character introduced into the Star Wars universe with a great performance by Ming-Na Wen. Temuera Morrison's performance as Boba Fett was also a highlight of the show. He just commands your attention whenever he is on screen with a combination of good acting and very good voice projection. It was great to see The Mandalorian and Grogu, 2 characters I care about and obviously want to see interact, but my biggest surprise, and a surprise I loved, was the introduction of an incredibly intimidating antagonist in the 6th episode, and that is Cad Bane. Now, Cad Bane was an important addition to the series because by then we knew who our main antagonist was. It was the Pike Syndicate, but we really did not have a particular face to kind of root against. Cad Bane's introduction in episode 6 was straight out of a western, and the scene that follows with his standoff with Cobb Vanth was one of the strongest moments of this series. His fight with Fett at the end was great to watch, maybe not great, maybe good to watch, and I overall appreciated the introduction of this antagonist at nearby, episode 6 and 7. So there is clearly a lot to say about this series, but I don't want this video to be too long. So I'll conclude by saying that yes, this series had some great set pieces. A lot of the action was solid and fun to watch. The inclusion of The Mandalorian and Grogu was narratively completely interrupting the whole thing were actually really fun to see and had one of the best antagonists in Star Wars with Cad Bane. Unfortunately, all this was hampered with a narrative that just staggered and faltered due to some very weird decisions taken by the show's creators. My personal rating for the Book of Boba Fett is a 2.5 out of 5.
If you had spoken such insolence to Jabba, he'd have fed you to his menagerie.
Please. Speak freely.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that review, and if you did, as always, don't forget to leave a like on this video and please do consider subscribing. Cheers, and I'll see you guys next time right here on Ad Lib Talk.